Record on both of them. You don't got to count us down. We're already live. Shalom, and welcome to another installment of Apostle GMS, giving all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Today's topic, as you can see on the video, is the Day of Atonement and other topics. So we're just going to go right into the Day of Atonement. Maybe we'll go into a couple other holidays, and then we'll, go what the Spirit gives us.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, and verse 23. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month. Okay. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 1. It says, And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. All right. So basically going into the Sabbaths and the high holy days. The word convocation, con is with, vocation is to call, like for a gathering, with the calling. And there were certain days out of the year that the Lord would have the men congregate to celebrate certain high holy days, which was 3 main high holy days that the Lord required the males to come to Jerusalem, but the other ones you would keep within, wherever you were.
Yeah, I'll get the scripture for you.
Con.
Was that Deuteronomy 16? Con. Yeah, because you brothers, man, you're supposed to know. See, that's what separates the learned from the unlearned. We were talking off camera. A lot of guys, man, who claim the Israelites, they wear them fancy garments. But when you scrutinize them, they really don't know what they're supposed to know. Deuteronomy 16 and 16, it says, three times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy power, in the place where he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before the Lord empty. That's it.
Yeah, because basically that was a requirement that the Lord wanted. There's when the Lord gave the laws to Moses, there's certain specific things that the Lord wanted done and how he wanted them done. All right, this is back in Leviticus 23 and 3. It says, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Excuse me. That's why we keep the Sabbath days to this day. All right. In the Sabbath days does not come in Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, unless according to the new moon, that particular month, it falls in that stead, so to speak. All right, the Sabbaths fall according to the new moons. The new moon sets the precedence or the beginning of the month, which is the actual Sabbath, and then from that point on, that's what sets the rest of the Sabbaths.
Yeah, because did Moses have a wall calendar like you have? Oh, let me check the wall calendar. Oh yeah, it's a Sabbath, a Friday sundown. They didn't have that back then, man. They were out in the wilderness. Moses didn't have no wall calendar, man. So how do you know when these are all the high holy days? So how do you know when the Sabbath comes in? The Sabbath comes in based upon the new moon. All the high holy days are based upon the new moon. So you guys that are teaching Friday sundown and Saturday sundown, you're going off.
Yeah, and that's why you had men that were watchers. They were what there was different watchers. That you had to watch for the enemies. You also had those that watched the signs in the heavens. And the moons to know, what days, we were to keep the high holy days. This is the book of 1 Chronicles 12 and 32. It says, And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. So you had a certain amount of men that had understanding of the times. And how did they have the understanding of the times? Because they were able to look up into the heavens and read the stars and read the certain eclipses and all of that, and know what was coming in and what wasn't. And they were doing it in righteousness. You could do it in wickedness, but they were doing it in righteousness. So you had to have those men to watch. Because as Apostle Charles said, we didn't have no wall calendars back then. And the thing is, in this society, we're under the rulership of the revival of the Roman Empire, so we have to go by their calendar for now. But we keep our calendar within that. All right, Leviticus 23:4. It says, "These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons." And a holy convocation and a feast, when you had a feast, the feast, you had food, you had wine, you had dancing, but it was the songs they were singing were actual psalms from the scriptures, hymns and songs from the scriptures. It wasn't this bullshit that you have going on right now, because when you have these guys that keep the Passover and they have these feasts, they have guys rapping and singing. They weren't doing that in the ancient world. That right there, what they're doing in those Passovers, that's called chambering. That's called rioting. That's what the nations were doing. They would get together and just have these wild feasts, and people singing and rapping and all that.
Or to Bacchus.
Yeah, Bacchus, you have Dionysus.
Yeah. Yeah, like in Trinidad, they got something they call Bacchanal. That's like a feast. Your Trinidadian brothers, they would definitely know.
Yep. That's
worshiping Bacchus. Really what them guys are doing, that rap stuff and that they're really worshiping Bacchus. They ain't worshiping Yahweh Shem Yahushai. They fooling themselves, man. You got it, brother.
Khan. So going back to Leviticus 23:4, it says, "These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons." Why? Because everything is done at a certain set time. You had seasons, you had days, you had years, you had months, you had minutes, you had seconds, and everything was set up that way to calculate times. It says, in the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. So when the 14th day came in, that was the Passover, which was also the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because the beginning or the beginning or the 14th day at evening is the beginning of the 15th day, which is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which on the night of the Passover, you didn't eat leavened bread. It says, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the same day. It says, unto the Lord, 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein, but you shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days. In the seventh day is an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. So the first day is a Sabbath, which is the actual Sabbath, which is the 15th day of the month. And then 7 days later, which would actually be the 20th day, that would be a Sabbath. And then the next day, you have the regular Sabbath, which comes in on the 21st. So you had Sabbaths within Sabbaths, but then you had the regular weekly Sabbath, not the moonly Sabbath. The inside joke. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And this is one of those days that you kept as far as the feast of first fruits. That was one of the days that you would keep to the Lord, which they call today the Pentecost. In the New Testament it's called Pentecost, but it's really the feast of first fruits, because what would happen is you would have the Passover, and then the last Sabbath of the Passover, when that Sabbath was done, then you began to count. You began to count for the 50 days, and at the end of the 50 days, you would keep that last day, which was a Sabbath, which they called the Feast of Pentecost, which really was the Feast of First Fruits or the Feast of Ingathering.
Yeah, because the first of the flock, be it of the flock or of vegetation, fruits and whatnot, they all belong to the Heavenly Father. Right. In other words, he takes his cut from off the top.
That's right.
And the members of the elect, they're like a first fruits. Because I got the scripture here. The book of James 1:18. It says, of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, which is what we have, right? That we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So the members of the elect, they're the first fruits of creation. And rightly so, they should rule. And that's where you get the word aristocrat from. Because aristocrat means best rule. The firstlings of the flock are the best to rule. You know, the first spirits, you know. Yeah, you got it.
All right, so it says back in Leviticus 23, and I'll start at 10 again. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when you become into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Right. And that's why the priest would receive those things, because the priest, that was, they didn't work. The priest, they just kept, they did the office of the Lord, and they would be taken care of by the congregation. The rest of the other tribes, that's why they would live among the suburbs or the best parts of each one of the tribes. And then what the tribes would do is they would give them a tenth of what they had, and they would give them certain things. And that would be the compensation the Lord gave the Levite priests for the office that they held. It says, and you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf and the lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the meat offering whereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the fourth part of an hin. And these are, ancient measurements. And you shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your power. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
I got a scripture to back up what you're saying. Numbers 28, 25, and 26. And on the seventh day ye shall, and it said after the Sabbath, right? Ye shall have an holy convocation, ye shall do no servile work. Also in the day of the first fruit, when ye bring a new meat offering unto Yahweh, after your weeks be out, ye shall have an holy convocation, ye shall do no servile work. So on that first day and on that last day are Sabbaths, holy convocations, right? Now, when you look up the word week or weeks, the word there is Shabbai, which means 7 period of 7 days of years, week, period of 7 days a week, feast of weeks, 7 of years. So you had certain high holy, like for example, the Day of Atonement didn't fall on a Sabbath, but the Day of Atonement is a Sabbath. Because it said these are Sabbaths beside your Sabbaths, and that's also in Leviticus 23. So somehow high holy days didn't always fall in line with the actual Sabbath. Like the Passover. The Passover came in the what do you call it? the unleavened bread that night. It came in on a Sabbath, and it ended on a Sabbath. The day of the memorial of blowing of the trumpets came in on a Sabbath, which is the new moon, which is also a Sabbath. It's a Sabbath. And then from that point, you count 6 days, and on the seventh day is the Sabbath. So you had the regular Sabbath, and then 3 days later, you had the Day of Atonement, which is not a regular Sabbath. That's why a lot of you guys can't get these breakdowns.
That's right. Back in Leviticus 23:15, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. Now it's giving you the starting point of when you start counting. This is talking about after the Passover, the last Sabbath of the Passover. That's when you begin your count. It says, excuse me, and you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath.
After the Sabbath. So it doesn't start on the Sabbath. It starts a day after the Sabbath. So at the end of that 49 plus that next day, which is 50, it lines right up.
It says, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall you number 50 days. And it basically it's telling you the same thing over again. Some guys get caught up on that. Oh, that's 50. That's 100 days. No, you don't understand what that's talking about. It says, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of the 2 tenth deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven. They are the first fruits unto the Lord. And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto the Lord Yahweh, and their meat offerings and their drink offerings, even offerings made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh, because the Most High is specific with what he wants. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruit for a wave offering before the Lord with 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priest. And you shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be the holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be for a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations.
Yeah, Leviticus 23:37 and 38. It said, these are the feasts of Yahweh, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, a burnt offering and a meat offering and a sacrifice and the drink offerings, everything upon his day. Like I said, the memorial of the blowing of the trumpet falls on the 7th new moon, which is a Sabbath, right? Now 28, it said, besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh. So you got all those different various days, but then you got the regular Sabbath. Well, look, brother, that didn't fall on the actual Sabbath. It didn't fall on the Friday night. It ain't supposed to fall on the Friday night. Sometimes, like I'll give you the example again. On the Passover, that night fell in on the Sabbath.
All right, verse 22. And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when thou reapest, neither shalt thou gather any gleanings of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor. That's the welfare system. And to the stranger, I am the Lord your power. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, right, in the first day of the month, right, shall you have a Sabbath, a memorial of the blowing of the trumpets, a holy convocation, letting you know that the first day of the month, which was the memorial of blowing of the trumpet on the 7th month, is an actual Sabbath, because the new moon brings in the new month, because the word moon, or the word month, comes from the word moon. So the new moon is the new month, the first day of the new month, which is an actual Sabbath, and it's letting you know right here. And then there's other scripture that let you know that the new moon is a Sabbath. And that's where you get your count, because you have to start somewhere. You have to start the count from somewhere. The calendar and the season and everything is set up to in order, to go in the proper order. So if you're going to count, you got to count from the beginning.